Welcome to the Heavy Spoilers Show. I'm your host Paul, aka Chris Twat, and this video we're breaking down the Tomorrow War. The new Amazon Prime movie has a lot going on with it, and throughout this we'll be going over its plot, ending, and comments made by director Chris McKay on what the film is actually about. Full spoilers ahead, so if you don't want to know what happens or how you die, then I highly suggest that you turn off now. If you do want to know, then click the thumbs up button and subscribe because we'll be telling you later in the video. Now with that out of the way, you're obviously very excited. Thanks for clicking this, now let's get into the Tomorrow War. Okay, so the Tomorrow War begins in December 2022, and in it we follow a character called Dan, played by Chris Pratt. Dan did 2 combat tours with the military, but he found his passion in the research lab, which led to him becoming a science teacher. During the World Cup finale, time travelers arrive to tell us that not only is it coming home, but that there's also a war in the future in which humanity has been almost completely eradicated. In the movie, we learn that these monsters, known as the White Spikes, were brought over as cargo on an alien ship that crash landed in Russia. Frozen in ice for years, these eventually unthawed and were unleashed on the population, destroying most of humanity. There's worse timelines I suppose, like the one where Justice League is still canon, but in a last-ditch attempt to save humanity, the humans of the future have travelled back in time to recruit us in their war to save Earth. Bloody kids of the future can't even fight their own wars without us. Now this war of future past has an extremely high death count and less than 20% return from fighting the White Spikes. Those that do are left with severe PTSD issues, and because of this the topic of it is quite a controversial one. Now the film doesn't really discuss how time travel works overtly, but we do learn that there is a tether in the past and future that people can travel between. However, these points aren't really static, and as the movie goes on we learn that if one is to change the past, that it drastically alters the future. The movie never out and out says it, but clearly those enlisted have either had children or are old enough to the point that they've lived most of their life. Therefore, if they are killed in the future, the people of the future will still be born, and there won't be a grandfather paradox in which someone isn't born because their ancestor was killed in the future and thus unable to return to the past to conceive them. Let me know if that doesn't make sense, but moving on. Now, due to the way that the events happen in the film, we do know that there is one timeline and that it is possible to change the trajectory of the future by altering the past. The kids of 2022 seem pretty depressed the human race is going to be more dead than Alice and Mac's career, but Dan seems hopeful that it is possible to change things. However, he is called into the draft, and we learn that Dan is due to die in 7 years' time, and thus he's more than adequate to fight in the future war without messing things up. Dan initially tries to dodge the draft and he goes to his father James, who can disable the temporal implants that are bolted onto troops to make sure they don't flee. Played by J. Jonah Jameson, JK looks like he could take down Spider-Man himself. God damn! Man looking like Tuna Santa with extra protein, god damn! Now the pair are estranged after James abandoned him as a child. However, this idea of fathers and their children is echoed throughout the film. We learn that Dan ended up leaving his family and that he died in a car accident, so in some ways it's like poetry, they rhyme. Dan very much ended up becoming his father, but this opportunity to know how things play out gives him a different perspective. When talking to Den of Geek, director Chris McKay said that the true meaning of the movie is about fathers and how deep down most of them would do anything for their children, even if they aren't always there. Dan going off to fight in the future war in some ways echoes his father James, who left him when he was younger after suffering PTSD due to Vietnam. It's clear that the war changed him, and James feels like it would have been worse if he'd stayed. In many ways, the best interests of his son decided his actions, but Dan sees him very much as being a coward that was willing to run away. Dan doesn't want to make the same mistakes as his dad, who fled from things, and because of this he decides to go and fight in the war in order to provide his daughter with a better future. Now Dan's child is a central figure in the film, and after he travels to the future he comes face to face with his daughter Muri, who is fighting aliens herself. Before he found out this though, yeah, you could see that he almost contemplated banging his own daughter, but I digress. Now the future parts are absolutely incredible, and the first 90 minutes of the film are really gripping. I feel like the movie perfectly captures the tone of things like Edge of Tomorrow and Live Die Repeat. What do you mean it's the same movie? Now on top of this, there's also elements like aliens, Starship Troopers, and a lot more to make this a really fun ride that had me totally on board for these moments. However, McKay said he also took inspiration from It's a Wonderful Life, There is this idea at the core that Dan has been given a second chance to do things the right way, knowing what happens to him. Ironically, he denies a second chance to his father when he goes to see him earlier in the movie, but I think the future very much gives him the foresight to see that he's just as flawed as his dad. Now, the white spike design is also very unique, and you can see why the people of the future wouldn't tell anyone in the past what they were fighting against, because it would stop people enlisting. The dialogue is really good too, and as always, Chris Pratt gives a great everyman performance that makes it easy to see things through his eyes as he's thrust into this terrifying future. There's also great side characters such as Charlie and Dorian, who sort of juxtapose one another, with one having an upbeat attitude whilst the other one has come to die. Overall though, we discover that Muri has brought her father to the future for a reason, and they attempt to capture a female white spike so they can study why she's immune to toxins. This mission is a success, though just barely, and Dan has to step in to save his daughter. Now from here they travel to a research base and develop a way to kill the female so that they aren't able to breed, and thus the species can be controlled. Turns out Muri wants her dad to take the toxin back into the past and wipe out the current timeline in order to build a better one. Just in the same way that the past were willing to sacrifice themselves to save the future, Muri very much represents the future wanting to sacrifice itself to save the past. She's basically the Tenet organization, and after the White Stripes attack the base, Muri is killed, and Dan probably won't be abandoning her again after watching her die before his very eyes in a moment. That would make quite a good scene in a movie. It looks very, very beautiful that. Anyway, due to the enlistment only lasting 7 days, Dan is pulled back to the past, and he and his wife figure out that the white spikes were always there. Through a kid called Martin that just so happens to be obsessed with ancient volcanoes, they discover the location of their spawn point. Now Dan tries to warn the government, but the bloody government, you know how they are, they don't actually like doing things whilst they still can, and they refuse to investigate Russia. Thus, Dan goes rogue with his father and some soldiers he met in the past, as well as the future resistance leader. Now unfortunately, I kind of feel like this third act sort of fumbles the ball a bit, and it definitely doesn't feel as strong as the prior two. The group find the ship buried far beneath the ice, and here they discover that the white spikes may have even been used as weapons in order to launch a planetary invasion. Kept in the cargo hold, Dan and co inject the toxin whilst they sleep, but after some awaken, the others do too, most notably the Queen. If aliens taught us anything, it's that they're the most dangerous, and after blowing the ship, it's up to Dan and his dad to take her down. The finale feels very in line with The Thing, the ending of the prequel one, and though it kind of devolves into all-out action, I think the movie definitely has its heart in the right place. I also like that the dad took time to make a snowman with a face on it as bait, but I digress. Now there is kind of too much jumping about and the monster constantly coming back after it seems like it's dead, but eventually Dan manages to kill it after his dad uses himself as a distraction. He shouts "die," and I'm glad that they said this was corny, because if they hadn't have, I might have turned the movie off. Anyway, all happy endings, and the government of course claim they carried out the op and they get the glory, but back home Dan gets something better. His dad meets his granddaughter, and Dan now makes the promise that he will never leave his family because the best future he could have is right in front of him. It's a very upbeat ending that lets us know we can make the right choices, and though I did have issues with the third act, I feel this was a pretty strong message for a movie that could have been just another by-the-numbers action film. Overall, I had a lot of fun with Tomorrow War, and I thought everyone did a really great job in their roles. Though the final act did drop the ball a bit for me, the first hour was really something. I think a lot of people will probably enjoy the movie. Overall, I'd give it probably 6 or a 7 out of 10, but if you're from Amazon and you want to give me some more voiceover work, then it's a 10 out of 10. 10 stars and a ribbon to wrap around it. Now, as for how you will die, which I promised I'd tell you, turns out you're gonna die from excessive clickbait from the channel heavy spoilers. So congratulations on that, and in the meantime I'd love to hear your thoughts on the movie, so make sure you comment below and let me know. As a thank you for interacting with the video, you'll be entered into a prize draw on the 30th of July, in which we pick 3 random comments that get an MCU box set of their choice. All you have to do to be in with a chance of winning is like the video, make sure you subscribe with notifications on, and drop a comment below with your thoughts on the film. The winners of last month's competition are on screen right now, so if that's you, then message me on Twitter at Heavy Spoilers. If you want something else to watch, then make sure you check out our breakdown of Loki episode 4, which will be linked on screen right now. I've also done some voiceover work for Amazon discussing why I love Invincible, and that'll be linked on screen right now too, so get yourself over there. Anyway, with that out of the way, thank you for sitting through the video. I've been Paul, I'll see you next time. Take care, peace.